Hi, I'm Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor.
A question I'm often asked is, what is the 6-month rule? Well, the 6-month rule, actually to start with, isn't a rule, it's not a law, it's a guideline. It's a guideline from the Council of Mortgage Lenders, which they suggested that lenders, buy-to-let lenders and residential mortgage lenders follow. And the gist of it is this, that a lender should not lend to a borrower or a buyer within 6 months of the borrower or buyer buying a property, or within 6 months of the borrower or buyer borrowing money. Now that might all sound a bit convoluted, let me try and explain what that means. For our purposes, if we're going to buy a buy-to-let property, we might buy our buy-to-let property using a mortgage. If we buy the property using a mortgage, we cannot refinance then within 6 months. Now, sometimes I'm asked, well, does it make any difference if you buy for cash? So let's think about that. Let's assume that we buy our buy-to-let property and we buy it 100% for cash, which can be a great way of doing it, by the way. Can we then refinance whenever we like? Well, no, the same rule still applies. We can only then finance, in this case, we're not refinancing because we haven't financed it in the first place, but we can't finance the property for 6 months. We have to have the property in ownership for 6 months. So in both of those scenarios, whether we buy for cash or whether we use a mortgage, we cannot mortgage or remortgage for 6 months. Why did the lenders do that? Well, it's a long and complicated story. It's all about ancient history. I don't really want to go into it, but basically back in the day, back in sort of before the credit crunch, investors were able to do what they call same-day refinancing, where they're able to buy a property at a below market value price, and then they're able to refinance it on the day that they bought it at the real value, the higher value, and get their money back out. It all went a bit pear-shaped when the credit crunch came, and so the Council of Mortgage Lenders got together with the banks and said, look, this is what we think you should do. 6 months, make everybody wait 6 months, and it will get rid of this practice, which is probably going to distort the market. So we're stuck with that. Now the great news is, as I say, it's not a law, it's a guideline. Not all lenders actually stick rigidly to it. Some lenders ignore it. Some lenders will let you borrow within 6 months, but they might put limits on how much you can borrow. For example, they may not let you borrow against the enhanced value. If you buy a property, for example, and you undertake works to increase the value and you want to then refinance, they may still restrict you to the value of the property when you bought it. But there's all different lenders out there, criteria is changing the whole time, so you need a good broker who will guide you through this. If you need your money more quickly than 6 months, it's possible, but you need to go to the right lender. But as a general rule, this is how most lenders are going to look at lending. If you've just bought the property, you can buy it with a mortgage, but then you can't remortgage for 6 months. If you buy it for cash, that's great, but again, you can't finance for 6 months. Either way, you're going to have to wait.
Well, I hope you found that informative and inspirational. And if you want help in property, please do come over to my website, www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk. Loads of great resources there, including my blog. There's loads of free videos, loads of great articles. There's free reports to download, including Learning with Peter, where you'll be able to access resources like my video courses, like my ebooks, including my home study course, the Successful Property Investors Strategy Workshop, which I've literally sold thousands of copies of, which takes you through how I started in property, literally with none of my own money, but how I was able to build a portfolio of £2 million worth of property in just 4 years. I'll show you everything that I did right so that you can do the same, and I'll show you everything that I did wrong. I'll tell you about all of my mistakes so that you can avoid them, so that you can progress in property far more quickly than me. Until next time, here's to successful property investing.